morning and welcome to our Sound Advice meeting. We are an advanced club that focuses on leadership development. What that means is you have your home club, which has a standard 2 or 3 speeches with evaluations. We have a different segment where we have 1 or 2 speeches that support a leadership development idea that we're trying to convey. Today's leadership development topic is the Competitors Symposium. And the Competitors Symposium and leadership opportunity that has been offered today is to Success Speaks. And Success Speaks has planned, organized, and developed the format. So Sound Advice has provided the platform leadership so that members of Success Speaks can then use that format to teach us, help us expand our leadership skills and our developmental educational skills. And today we're going to talk about competition. With that, the format of our presentation is going to be different. You have an agenda in front of you. So we will have a test speaker. And our test speaker today is from the Swim Club, Judy Stein. And with the test speaker, we will also have a live coaching session. The live coaching session will be managed by Kyle Hall. What does the live coaching session mean for our test speaker? When a test speaker comes up or a speaker comes up, we give them our undivided attention and we give them our focus. And nobody leaves the room, phones are turned off. But today, Kyle will have certain segments to help Judy as she prepares to compete in our 2020 conference and going on to the International Speech Contest. What that means is Kyle will be interrupting Judy at specific times which he feels that he can benefit the improvement of her presentation. So please don't shush Kyle. And I feel like it's Catholic Church. But don't shush Kyle and don't understand that that is the purpose of this. And Judy has willingly accepted and understands that this is the process that's going to happen. Kyle will also ask during certain portions if you have, as the audience, a certain input. One of the things that we would like you to focus on is this is not evaluation. This is coaching. This is for the purpose of improving specific formats of what Judy is performing, as opposed to say, I like that, I appreciate that. It will be very specific. Your verbiage in this capacity doesn't meet your intent. Those are the things that we'll be looking for from feedback as Kyle asks for those. But again, Kyle will be interrupting Judy as she presents. When I introduce Judy, it will be in the speech format. I will introduce her by name, speech title, repeat the speech title, and then her name will clap and she'll come up and start to present. There are 3 segments to our presentation, but the second one is 2 parts. So there are actually 2. We'll have our test speaker with the live coaching, and the second portion is a panel. And that panel will be led by Roxanne Schultz of Success Speakers. Are we muddled? Is it clear as mud what we're going to do tonight? Because that is the focus of making sure that we are understanding how to compete and what we're looking for. And the other things that you can start looking for if you are competing is the opportunity to have a coach help you along with your presentations. With that, I will not give specific introduction for Judy, but let's give you some background on Judy and on Kyle. Kyle, why Kyle? Why is it important for him to be the coach? What areas of expertise does he have? Kyle was a 2003 third place placement in the International Speech Contest, which is pretty impressive. So in 2003, Kyle placed third, and I really appreciate those numbers, those sequential numbers. They help me remember the things that I need to say. But that's why Kyle has been coaching and doing this format of live coaching for the last few years, and it's been very beneficial to the individuals that he has provided that live coaching for. Judy comes from an educational background. Maybe the word Stanford, the initials of MIT might mean something to you. So she's pretty smart if you think about those schools that she's attended. She has a degree in geology, and right now she is focusing more on people and less on elements. But there's elements of people that she'd like to develop, and those are the interpersonal skills. And that's why Judy. She also stepped up 4 days ago to say, yes, I will accept the challenge. And that's what we as Toastmasters do. With our competitor symposium test speaker, Judy Stein, Mentoring Magic. Mentoring Magic, Judy Stein.
Until I was in my 40s, I never pursued having a mentor. I'd had informal mentors off and on. I had paid for professional coaching. I didn't understand that having a mentor could give me the guidance and inspiration for me to reach.
Stop. Let's go back and rework your opening. Two things. You looked up and you started speaking. And in a contest, you can look at the audience as long as you want, and they don't start the timer until you communicate with the audience. So I want you to look up, and I want you to look around the room slowly and catch everyone's eye. Make sure they're all looking at you. Take as long as you can stand. Which is usually only, it feels forever, but it's usually only 3 or 4 seconds. And then start.
Okay.
The other thing is, you started out talking a little about the mentoring thing, but you built up to, I didn't understand. Start out with an emphatic, I didn't understand.
Okay. I didn't understand the importance of having a mentor, and that a mentor could give me the guidance and inspiration to help me reach my goals. I didn't discover this until I was in my 40s. Before that, it was kind of informal, off and on. So I discovered having a mentor, and at some point, I had 2 mentors at the same time. That's not the benefit of one mentor and one mentor. It's like having mentor squared, magic squared. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, perhaps you've had a really good mentor. Most recently, I had 2 mentors at the same time. They really brought together more guidance, more insights, more inspiration. And by the end of this talk, you will want to go out and find yourselves 1 or 2 mentors. One of my mentors, Fortunato, he mentored me on business and professional matters. And also, he had some heart and soul. Awilda mentored me on the heart and soul side of things, with some professionalism. I met Fortunato in Seattle in a business group. We were both on the board. We attended meetings. We got to know each other over time and became friends. Fortunato is a very successful financial manager and advisor, still is. He loves, though, to help people in the high-tech arena. He has this huge network of friends, and he's very fast to introduce people. Most of all, he excels at being a great mentor. He's kind, he's funny, he's passionate, he's smart, and he's patient. And I needed patience. I understand quickly, but not always so fast to jump in and take action. Through Fortunato's guidance, when I did take action, it was very focused and helped me reach my goals. We often met as people meet with their mentors. We communicated via phone, email, and text. We met every 3 to 4 months in his office at the end of his workday. He was great at asking probing questions. We talked, we reviewed, and we strategized. And then we went and had martinis. Over martinis, we would continue our conversation more informally. Over martinis, we could talk about the more personal, talk about the passion, the fears, the excitement. I realized that all of my business successes in the last 5-7 years were because of Fortunato's mentoring. And the deepening of our relationship, going for martinis, really added to that mentoring magic. My other mentor, my heart and soul mentor, Awilda, we also began as friends. Her neighbor introduced us. I was very good friends with her neighbor. Awilda's career was spent singing opera in Europe. Wow, can she sing? When she moved back to the US, she retired from opera and began giving voice lessons. I knew Awilda for several years before I began singing with her. Singing filled my heart and my soul.
Okay, stop.
Yes.
There's a question that has been running through my mind that you haven't answered.
Okay.
Why did you need or want a mentor? And we need to understand that before you meet, is it Fortunato? Fortunato. We need to understand that. Sorry, we need to understand that before you meet Fortunato and Awilda, so that we understand how that relationship developed. The other thing is, you said that your coaching, mentoring with Awilda started out as friendship. But you said also started out as friendship. Did that happen with Fortunato? Because you didn't tell us that.
I thought I said we became friends over time. We were on the board, attended events.
Okay, then I missed that.
And over time became
Then
friends.
I missed that.
I may have not said it.
Okay.
It's in the notes.
So we need to understand that.
Okay.
And you spend a lot of time talking about their backgrounds. And I would encourage you to spend a little bit more time talking about what they taught you, what you learned from your conversations. You talk a little about understanding that your successes came from your mentoring from Fortunato. What pearls of wisdom did you share? What realizations about yourself? Anybody else have a suggestion at this point?
I think just following up on what you said, I think I would have liked when you started talking about Fortunato, saying he took me from here to here to here. And then go back and maybe give a little background on him. But you gave actually too much background on him. It's not important that we know all about his life.
I thought before she mentioned Fortunato's name, that there should have been a pause so that we knew that she was going to talk about somebody who was going to be her mentor, because you just started talking about it, just went right into it like we already knew who he was. And so I just thought maybe there should have been a pause in there and just let us know.
Joanna?
I think the transition between where you wanted or why you needed a mentor and
areas you mentioned. You mentioned both names, but heard them very brief. But if you said there were two mentors that I had, boom, in this capacity, boom, in this capacity, they taught me different things. The first mentor I had, would that help with the transition to bring up Ladonna's point, excuse me, of now you're going to talk about one of them, and then you introduce.
Okay, and Fritz?
I'm a little slow, but on the structure and the organization, it's a little bit hard for me to follow. It's a little linear. And you're in a linear slot here. If you could move laterally with sections of the speech, it would help people like me.
Divide it up.
Am I allowed to ask a question? What does that mean?
Do you want you to move from side to side?
When,
Oh, thank you. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Now,
That makes sense to me.
what I'd like to, we have the time, so I want you to start
Okay.
from the beginning, like you've just been introduced. All the way back to the beginning.
And then ad lib these
Yes.
things.
That's what we talked about, yes.
On the fly.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
Do you want us to reset this so you can have that space to go
or you finally
around?
leave.
Or do you feel confined to just the center?
Oh, no, I understand.
Okay.
I can do both, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mentoring Magic, Judy Stein. Take it.
I didn't understand what a mentor did. I didn't understand that a mentor helped guide you, inspire you to help you reach your goals. I didn't know this until I was in my 40s. Before that, it was very informal, on and off. But now I knew. And not only did I know about one mentor, I had a time in my life when I had two mentors. That wasn't the experience of one mentor plus one mentor. It was the experience of mentor squared, magic squared. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Perhaps you've had a mentor you have really liked. There was a time in my recent past that I had two different mentors. One, Fortunato, was a mentor for the business professional side of things, with some heart and soul. The other, Awilda, was a mentor for the heart and soul side of things, with some professionalism as well. The reason I needed two different mentors was because they did two different things. Fortunato really helped me with my skills in networking, in getting business, in being there, in following up. Awilda really helped me with the heart of what I was doing, the who I am, who I wanted to be. And their approaches were very different. Fortunato, whatever side, Fortunato was a financial manager and advisor, and has been for many years. And his passion is to help people in the high-tech arena. He has this huge network, and he's quick to make introductions, which is helpful when you're trying to learn how to network successfully. We worked together for a long time. Often we would be in contact, and every 3 to 4 months, I would meet him at the end of the day in his office. He asked great probing questions. We talked, we reviewed, and then we strategized. Then we went for martinis. And over martinis, we continued our conversation. Over martinis, we talked about the more personal, my passion, my fears, my excitement. He was truly making a difference in helping me have business success, in helping me reach those goals. With Awilda, who was my mentor for heart and soul, we worked very, very differently. Awilda had been an opera singer in Europe. That was her career. Wow, could she sing? After she moved back to the United States, she retired from opera and began giving voice lessons. I had known her for several years before I began taking singing from her. I found that singing really touched my heart and fed my soul. Awilda inspired me in many ways beyond singing. She really was a mentor for me for the voice in general. Her magic, her mentoring magic, was to teach me how to use my voice to express myself, how to have power, how to be me.
Stop. Is that the 15? Okay. Take a breath. Take a breath.
Okay.
Okay. So Wilda and the discussion that you're doing with Wilda is going to be a great opportunity for you to strut your stuff vocal variety wise. And it starts with, wow. Because you went, wow. No, wow. Could she sing? Louder, more dramatic. And then when you start talking about power and support, she taught me how to support my voice, how to project, how to sing louder. And you can even give us a note if you wish. But if you're going to talk about her teaching you power, you need to show us power.
Okay.
So take it back from where you started with, starting with Awilda.
Hard to know where that is.
Yeah, I know.
So over here.
Wow.
Hey, don't laugh, don't laugh. In a well-practiced speech where you have blocking, that's one of the ways people do that. Oh, that part of speech, I'm here.
I knew that, that's why I said that, except you're over there.
Yeah, she was over there.
I'm flexible. Awilda was my heart and soul mentor. Awilda's career was spent singing opera in Europe. And wow, could she sing? I had known her for a while and eventually started taking voice lessons with her. I found that singing filled my heart and my soul with joy. Awilda's mentoring went beyond just singing. Awilda really wanted to work with the voice and who you were, to express yourself, to stand your ground, to have your feelings and the power that comes with that. This was her mentoring magic for me.
It's okay.
Things have changed so much. This voice was important for business, not only relationships. Awilda and I talked about many things. She offered great guidance. We talked about work, politics, spirituality, mind, body, feeling connections. We explored understanding who we wanted to be and how we wanted to give to others. A fantastic gift. And I grew so much with this because with her mentoring, I took steps to become who I wanted to be. Fortunato and Awilda are very different people, and they're very different mentors. Their guidance is very different. Their inspiration is very different. Having either one of them be a mentor would have been significant, would have moved my career forward, would have moved me, my person, forward. Together, it was unbelievable what they brought. Having both of that input and support and inspiration at the second together, it was truly mentoring magic for me. My life changed and I soared. As I said in the beginning, I didn't pursue a mentor until I was in my 40s. It's never too late. I really recommend that each of you go out and find a mentor or two and see where that brings you. See that mentoring magic in your own life.
We're not done yet. Depending on how much time we have, you might give the speech again.
Yeah, all different. All different.
Now, I have a question. You said at the end here that it wasn't until you were in your 40s that you pursued a mentor. Did you ask Fortunato and Awilda to mentor you? Okay, because you didn't make that clear at the beginning that
Right.
you asked them. You didn't say, you didn't talk about the process of asking them, the need to ask them, was it courage? Did you have to work up courage to ask them? Or, oh, we were already friends and and it just slipped into a mentoring relationship.
With Fortunato, it was more asked.
Okay,
With Awilda, it evolved into that.
okay, that's fine. But what drove you to pursue a mentoring relationship?
Well, with Fortunato, it was to have more business success,
Okay,
to gain more business. And
that required networking and follow through. Okay, you need to state that really clearly.
Okay.
I didn't understand, and by the way, going back to that very beginning sentence, I didn't understand. I would say, I didn't understand. Period. I didn't understand, then tell people what you didn't understand.
Okay.
That long pause after I didn't understand, because what you're going to tell people is this is what I learned. That didn't understand sets the stage for that. Much better job showing what Awilda was teaching you, about standing your ground, having your feelings. I could see the physical change when you did that, much better. The title is Mentoring Magic. I'm thinking maybe the title should be Mentoring Martinis and Magic, but she likes that.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I like that.
But at the end, you were coming to your close and you were saying, I think it was maybe you should or consider going out. I say be more positive, be more forceful. Go out and seek out your own mentors. Discover, saying and see what it does for you is weak. Discover your own mentoring magic. Be more forceful in your call to action. Other suggestions?
I have some. Can you hear me? This is Judy online.
Okay, Judy, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, these are more, I guess, specific about language, Judy. And one thing I do want to compliment you on is your enunciation. For instance, you said guests, and it was clearly plural. Many people, including me, it would sound like guest, but you enunciate each word very clearly, which is very much to your credit. But I would eliminate really. They really did this, they really did that. The word really didn't help. You could just eliminate it. I would consider changing things to specifically what you mean. Fortunato helped me with the business side of things, the business side of my endeavors, or business side of just what you were going to accomplish. I think you should substitute great for either just leave it out or be more specific about why it was excellent or very helpful. Great doesn't really tell us that much. You could also, there was one place where you said just, it wasn't just singing. You could eliminate that, say it wasn't singing, it was more. When you were saying your mentor helped you find yourself and using your, that was excellent because it was drawing your audience in. But then at the very end, you said that's what it did for me. You could leave out for me because what you had already done was draw your audience in. So it wasn't just you, it was all about us as well. But basically an excellent speech. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. Stephen, you had a comment?
I did. A couple points. One about your beginning with saying that I didn't understand the value of a mentor. Do you have some examples of how not having a mentor showed up in your life? Like I don't know, struggling with the business or struggling with your voice or whatever, but help us see what, instead of just telling us that you didn't understand, how can we actually experience that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then another point, just the idea came to me when you were talking about how singing brought joy to your life. Is there a line from a song or something that exemplifies that? You just kind of exude that.
I see I'm gonna have to sing.
Yeah.
Sing something.
Yeah. Okay, Joanna, you had a comment?
Actually, it's to caveat what Steve said. He talks about, was there something that you learned? And because you're so far into it, and this is just for me, because you're so far into it and you're saying, now that you're working with this mentor, what was your aha moment that there was significance of that? Instead of what you didn't know, but what was your aha moment that mentor pointed out to you? Having Fortunato as the mentor in this capacity of networking, you alluded to that, but just increase that. And then a little bit.
I have a thought along the same lines, but let's hear from Fritz and then Madonna.
So what Steve says is real important. There's perfect opportunities for some anecdotal evidence. Oh, I spent my last dollar and I was looking at the abyss of entrepreneurial terror and how passionate, emotional story, a contrast, that's all. A couple spots in there really neat.
And I just have a couple of suggestions for vocal variety. Singing, if you could sing the word singing. Power, I know that Kyle brought that up before, but if it's power, to bring it, so it's the voice and it's the gesture. And you said the word soar. They'd help you to soar. Let's give that some color, like soar, just kind of with the voice and with gestures, soar, so that we're starting to feel like, oh, these mentors really helped her. And maybe we might want a mentor too to help us to soar.
One of the points, one of the themes I'm hearing, and this is true for any competition, is you really can't get too big. Now we're in a small room, but as you compete, the rooms are going to get bigger and bigger and more people, assuming you win. So you really can't get too big. They helped me soar, and it may feel tremendously overacted or over dramatized for this small room. But don't be afraid of the emotion, don't be afraid of the gesture, don't be afraid of the facial expression, and letting the energy out. Leave it all here. Don't take any of it home with you. In terms of getting very precise about how Fortunato helped you, you showed us how Awilda helped you. Fortunato, you said he helped you network. Well, we don't have time for a network seminar, but you could go, I went from, hi to, hi, how you doing? I do this. Whatever he may have taught you. You could take 30 seconds to demonstrate something. Now, 30 seconds, you may not have 30 seconds in this long speech. How much time do you have left, Christine?
We have 15 minutes left.
You have 15 minutes left.
30 minutes.
Okay.
Can I make
Michael?
one quick one?
Sure.
When you're talking about power, because you did change that. You did show us.
She
You
changed
did
it.
I thought a really good job. And my question is, and I got you last time, Kyle, was here with you talking about, especially in humorous speaking, not to be afraid of making fools. So my question is, all of you, you talk about getting big, nothing's too big, but is it too loud? Is there a ceiling as far as really being loud with something?
So in a room this size, I could be too loud. Maybe you could be too loud. There are some people who couldn't be too loud. But if what's that?
There is a too loud.
There is a too loud. Yeah. But none of us are near it yet.
I think,
They're singing.
Yeah.
Right?
but I think there's a different definition for big as far as loud and how you, because when you go big like that and you grandiose, you're absorbing energy from the audience doing that too, which is going to sustain you, give you that extra burst that you might need at the last couple of minutes. But if you go with that monologue of like this, you drain yourself. You're giving all your energy to your audience. So humor is a great way to exude energy and like that too. But being big, like he says, creates. Yeah.
2 more points, and then we're gonna have Judy do it one more time. Lindy?
I'd like to make a point. This is Robin. Can you hear me?
Oh, moving it from.
Can you hear me?
Hold on, Robin.
Hello? Hi.
Hold on, Robin.
So I'd like to make the point that towards the end, when you're talking about that you started to soar, I thought the results were sounding very nebulous. And so maybe if you're getting more specific at the beginning about how Fortunato is helping you with networking, maybe you can talk about how besides you starting to soar, that your business started to flourish more or something, so that people could really get a flavor of how your life and business started to take off in a more specific way, if it did.
Thank you, Robin. Lindy, do you want to?
I was going to say the power of questions and direct questions at the end for passing the baton to us. What about you?
Yeah.
Imagine what magic a mentor might bring. This could be your year for mentoring magic. So that you're really making us think. Great. Oh, that's good.
Good. I like that. I didn't catch your name.
Chuck.
Chuck.
Sorry. Judy, you really were very good when you would make contact with me, look me in the eyes, and just, I was there. But then you would move up past me. And that was okay. I understand the structure of the room at this point. But when you got to some really good points, like towards the end when you talked about, I would advise you, I felt completely left out of that because you were up here. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So moving forward is good, except not at the end and not at the beginning. Okay, Judy? Judy?
Yes.
Go over there. Take 2 or 3 breaths. Take 2
But I
or 3
would-
deep breaths.
Everybody picking on me for 30 minutes.
And we have time for one more, and we need to time this one specifically because she needs to know whether it's 5:30, 7:30, how long it takes.
All right.
Understanding,
Okay. Yeah. The timers.
I know.
So Sherry's going to time Judy. And
Okay.
I'm keeping you on.
Great, perfect. Tell me when you're ready, Sherry.
Ready.
One more deep breath.
Doesn't start until she talks.
Judy Stein, mentoring martinis and magic.
I didn't understand. I didn't understand how important a mentor could be. I didn't understand how they could bring guidance and inspiration and help me be successful in reaching my goals. Until I was in my 40s, I never had really a mentor. So I often felt a little lost or couldn't really get everything done that I hoped I could get done. Didn't really have the structure I needed for me to be my best. And then I understood. Not only did I have one mentor, recently I had two mentors. That's not 1 + 1 = 2 mentors. That's mentors squared, magic squared. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Perhaps you've had a great mentor. Ooh, don't use great. Perhaps you've had a helpful mentor. Learning. By the time I finish this talk, you're going to be running out the door to find a mentor. The two mentors I had at the same time were very, very different. One mentor, Fortunato, was my mentor for business and professional pursuits. My other mentor, Awilda, was for heart and soul pursuits. And yet there was still some overlap. With Awilda, we talked about professionalism. With Fortunato, we talked about heart. I met Fortunato through a business forum in Seattle. We were both on the board, we attended meetings together, and over time we became friends. I saw how he worked with other people. I knew I was flailing. I saw his passion for people in the high-tech arena. And I went to him and I asked for help to grow my business, to meet people. Fortunato had a Rolodex that was huge, and he was very quick to introduce people. He made a great mentor for me, introducing people, mentoring me, helping me understand the purpose of follow-up in a timely way. Yes, I was in my 40s when I learned this. Okay. We enjoyed working together. We stayed in touch, email, text, phone. Every 3 to 4 months, we get together in his office after the end of his workday. He asked really probing questions. We talked, we reviewed what I'd done, we strategized for the next couple of weeks. And then we went and had martinis. Over martinis, we continued our conversation. Over martinis, we talked about the more personal. My passion, my fears, my excitement. We swapped stories. And as our relationship deepened, so did the mentoring magic. Fortunato really helped me.
Please help with that.
Really?
Okay.
And getting rid of the really. Fortunato assisted me with making connections. Fortunato opened the door for me to other people in other companies. And through Fortunato, I gained additional business. With the Wilda, her style of mentoring was different. And in the beginning, I didn't go to her for mentoring. She was also a friend that I had met. She spent her career in Europe singing opera. Wow, could she sing? Eventually, I decided to sing with her. Singing brought joy to my heart and my soul. For a Wilda, and this is where we evolved into a mentoring relationship, a mentoring magical relationship. For a Wilda, voice was not only for singing. Voice was for expressing who you were. Voice was giving yourself power. Voice was allowing your feelings and supporting you. We talked about many things. We talked about politics, spirituality, mind, body, and feelings. We talked about who we wanted to be. Who did I want to be? And how could I give? This was the true mentoring magic with the Wilda. And I learned how I wanted to be. A Wilda gave me the steps to become a better person, to open my heart more, and to be present. Wilda and Fortunato are very different people and very different mentors. Their guidance is very different. Their inspiration is very different. Either one of them would have provided me with significant mentoring magic. Together, that guidance and inspiration was huge. It was the best of both worlds for me. It truly was mentoring magic. As I had mentioned, I didn't look for a mentor until I was in my 30s, 40s. It's not too late.
Even with that memory lapse.
I think you should find a mentor, maybe two mentors, so you can experience the magic that comes from having a something mentor.
Yeah, that was difficult to do. You did a good job. You're a good sport.
What was the time on that, Sherry?
8:57.
Right.
You had to stop a few times.
And you have 2 minutes left.
Right, so let me make a few last comments.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much.
You're so welcome. And thank you.
I know it was tough. I know it was tough.
Very much.
I know it was tough.
You get a feeling, you know, at any
One of
moment
the comments, one of the observations I wanted to share, when you came up here, you'd been practicing that, you were fairly confident about the structure of your speech. The last time through, you were not confident about the structure of your speech, but I think more of Judy showed up.
Yes, definitely.
And that difference is huge. Now, what I'd like to see you do is go home, be right, restructure, trim, and then go to our club, Port Angeles Club, Jefferson Club, any club that will book you, and practice your speech. And I think with a little trimming and with Judy showing up in the way you did here, it's going to be amazing.
Magical.
Magical.
Thank you.
And thank you all for taking that. It was great. Really. Thank you.
And
Oh,
turn
and-
control back over to our
I didn't
Toastmasters.
know if you had any final.
No, I'm done.
Right. It is always a challenge to stand before the lectern and present. It is an even greater challenge to be corrected on the spot. It takes a willing heart, an open mind, and sometimes a thick skin and knowing that Kyle's not driving you home, but I am. That helps a little bit. At
I'd
least
rather
in
be
my
driving. You couldn't pummel me then.
I'm the driver, not the passenger in the vehicle. But it is, and we do appreciate the opportunity that you have given us to learn through you. And that is what leadership is about. It's not just about you learning new techniques or understanding how to compete. That is a byproduct of it. And the other byproduct for us is the ability to see this in action and consider having a coach for ourselves and understanding the difference between an evaluator and a coach and how that comes together. For our second session that has two parts, will be led by Roxanne Schultz. And Roxanne Schultz is the Division D director this year. And she will be leading, she's the moderator for our panel, for our competitor symposium. And she has three panelists, which she will introduce. Because of our time frame, I'm not going to be able to expound as much as I would on a fellow division director as I'd like to. I'll let Roxanne show you what a phenomenal thing she has. Welcome, Roxanne Schultz.
Okay, let's take a moment and set up for our panelists. Yes, we want chairs. We want 4 chairs.
Yeah, we go sit over there.
Thank you. Okay, the order that you sit is not important.
You make those adjustments.
1, 2, 3. Okay, sounds good. Hey, good evening. I am Roxanne Struess, your panel moderator tonight for the Competitors Symposium. This part of our presentation will have to do with specific portions of being a competitor, from coming up with a topic, to writing your speeches, to being able to have the mental strength to be able to do so. We have 3 great panelists with important topics tonight, and they have messages for the upcoming competition speakers. But before I introduce our amazing panelists, let me explain a little bit about their collective accomplishments. Each panelist before you has completed to district level and beyond. But what does that mean? In shorthand, Toastmasters International is a worldwide organization. It has about 375,000 members, 16,000 clubs, and in 141 countries. The international organization is then broken down into regions, then into districts, from districts to divisions, divisions to areas, and finally clubs. All contestants start at the club level. There are approximately 16,000 competitors from around the world, 1 per club, that will work their way up the ladder to the international stage. The winner becoming the Toastmasters International World Champion of Public Speaking for that year. Yes. Well, how to get to that international stage and the winning speeches is why we have this panel tonight. This is why it has been formed. We have our esteemed panel tonight. We have Madonna Hanna, who was a contestant and winner to the regional level in 2015. We have Lindy McLean, contestant and winner to the regional level in 2018. We have Bud Rigolet, contestant and winner to the district level in 2019. Now, each panelist has chosen a question to answer. Each question is important, not only to the contestants, but also to our club speeches as well. The questions selected were how to choose a speech topic, how to craft a winning speech, how to handle competing mentally. Considering our time, we'll hold our applause until all of the panelists have spoken. Then you will have 15 minutes to ask questions and we'll have answers. Madonna answered the question, how to choose a speech topic. Madonna, how to choose a speech topic. Please take it over. Thank you.
In my opinion, the best source for a competition speech is from your own life experience. I would like you all to consider what person in your life inspired you. Then as you think about that person, how did they inspire you? What did they do? What was that moment when you thought, oh my gosh, this person said something or did something that changed my life, and I want to emulate that person or share that experience. Once you do that, I think it's important to think, how can you translate that message so that you're going to engage the audience? And what do you want the audience to get out of it? What will be your call to action also? People who inspire you, it could be your parents, it could be your teacher, it could have been a neighbor, it could be a coach, or it could be someone that you don't know personally, but you observed them doing something that you found so profound that it made an impact on your life. We don't always have to know people personally. Sometimes you might be watching a movie, or you might be watching a particular television show, or somebody is giving a speech. There's that moment of, oh my gosh. You might have thought about what they were saying, but it was how they said it, and it was how they made you feel, so that you would want to get up and do something. It's important, as you come up with your speech, how do you want the audience to apply what you have said? Another path that you can take is an extraordinary experience that has happened in your community, your home, or something that has happened globally. Sherry, I remember when our club turned, I believe, 70. My club, Evergreen 333. You were a speaker during our anniversary. Sherry shared a speech about learning about the start of the United States getting into the war. If I believe correctly, that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. She mentioned that she was a child at the time, and everybody sort of crowding around the radio, and people just came out of their houses and they were standing in the street because it's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? That stayed with me, obviously. Where were you when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated? Where were you 9/11? Where were you when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl? How did you feel? I mean, I can remember a moment when one of my husband's former students was on the Seahawks. He had been traded from the Baltimore Colts. And he came out here and my husband called him. And he said, "Is this Steve from home?" So we have a connection here and an experience. And when the Seahawks mathematically were able to get into a playoff, I remember him running out in his underwear in the Kingdom, looking up to where he thought my husband was sitting. And I said, "Stephen, Zach's looking for you." And it was, to me, that was a moment that, wow, there's emotion in the Seahawks, and there's a story behind that, camaraderie, whatever. So you might want to think about a historic moment and how you felt and how you can get your audience to feel. Because when I said the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, like, yeah, everybody instantly connected with that. And there may be a story connected with that also. The topic that advanced me in 2015 was a personal story that I shared. I had been bullied from kindergarten to the 12th grade because of the color of my skin. I shared a story about a young lady named Beth, who I have carried in my heart since high school. She was also bullied for her physical appearance. She was a lot braver than I was. And that's the story that I told, how because of her appearance and people making fun of her, she participated in everything at school. And I was just kind of like, I'm not getting up there to do that, you know? And when people made fun of her, I did too, because people weren't picking on me at the time. And then something very significant happened with Beth, and that changed my attitude. It helped me to say, you know what, when people say things about me, I don't care. Beth had passed away from cancer. She was a sophomore in high school and she passed away from cancer. And when the doctors told her that, you know, you have a week to live, she decided to come to school. And I remember thinking, there's no way in the world I would have done that after the way she'd been treated. But darn it, she did it. And that's what inspired me to change my life. And that's the story that I told. And maybe you have a story like that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lindy answered the question, how to craft a winning speech. How do you craft a winning speech, Lindy?
Madonna did a great job talking to us about beginning with different ways of finding your message. Here's the way that I do it. Take some personal time and you tune in to your passionate message. Ask yourself, if I was told that I'm going to die 24 hours from now, peacefully, no trauma involved, just easily, what's the one thing I would want to communicate to people around me before I go? You've got your passionate message. Next, find your foundational phrase. Craig Valentine does a marvelous presentation about foundational phrase, and he actually spoke at this last year's convention. Encourage your club to buy that speech so that
all watch it together. It's only $14.95. Buy it and watch it. It's How to Persuade in a Powerful, something like that. Craig Valentine. Foundational phrase are the things that you walk away with, and it will be used a few times during the speech. A few that I can think of world champions are pull less, bend more. I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. I'm still standing. Mentoring magic. It's funny how you can watch a speech and then turn to some person next to you and they say, what was that speech about? And you go, oh, it was really good. It can slide right out. So that foundational phrase is one of the things that can peg it in your head so that it stays. It's like a sound bite. It's less than 10 words. The fewer the better. If you can put rhyme to it, that makes it even more memorable. Alliteration, something that these are tools. Now, organizing your speech. Use what you've learned in Toastmasters, that classic opening, closing with 3 bullet points. It's gold. You think it's simplistic? It's gold. You should watch Ramona Smith's winning speech in 2018. Opening, closing, 3 bullet points. It's like, wow, that really works. Next, round up the story or stories that illustrate your passionate message, that illustrate your foundational phrase, that back this up, that are part of how you bring this to life for everyone. It might be 3 stories, 1 for each of the bullet points, or it might be like Aaron Beverly did this last year. It might be that he spends the whole speech telling 1 story, and that really brought his point to life. If you're a writer like myself, remember, always speak what you've written aloud. Of course, as Toastmasters, you know to practice aloud. But something is going to be different aloud than it is just on paper. Make sure that you always speak it aloud. Then elicit evaluations. Do your speech wherever you can, whenever you can, and ask for feedback. Now, not all feedback you get is going to be helpful. But one of the reasons to do it as many times as you can, as many places, is you listen for what you hear over and over again. And that's pretty much reinforces that, yes, more than one person said that, something to pay attention to. Choose humor. First year I saw a district contest, there were just amazingly powerful speeches, and they were tragic, difficult, personal situations, watching people die. I mean, they were heartfelt, they were moving, but oh my gosh. The person who won was the one who included humor. Just hands down, easy. So, and how do you do humor? Get Kyle to speak to your club about choosing humor, but for me, the way that works is to look for the places in my life where I have been way outside of my comfort zone, because I'm going along with one set of expectations, and it comes along, hits me like that, and it's that unexpected collision where humor can be found, and that's usually sort of a self-deprecating humor. That's my particular fallback. But then again, remember all the tools that you've learned so far in Toastmasters. You know how to tell stories. Bring at least 3 senses to your story. Get them to visualize it. Get them to taste it if that's appropriate. Smell. Bring at least 3 senses in if you can. That brings them right to the scene that you're describing. Word pictures, alliteration, rhyme, as I've said. Wherever possible, use dialogue instead of narration. Instead of saying, I went to my dad and I asked him about what he did when he was 5 years old. Dad, what did you do when you were 5 years old? And then he probably has something funny to say. I don't have the punchline because I didn't plan it. You can bring the whole thing down and make it much more lively by just making a dialogue whenever you can. So these are just a few things, and you will get this little handout because I worked out a little acronym, a long acronym, but you'll be able to take it home with you to help you. Okay. That's it for now. Thank you. Thank you.
And Our third speaker is Bud, and Bud chose how to handle competing mentally.
Well, after listening to these two, I'm pretty well stressed out. I got this question. But no, I mean, to be able to find the perfect subject to talk about and be able to build it, it's half of what gets you there. It's what do you do with it when you're done? You can memorize the speech, you can do all of this. And then you get up on that stage and you just, it's gone. It just went right out through your top of your head and you don't even know your name, much less what you're doing up there. How do you work through that? That's the biggest question. Being a keynote speaking is one of the most nerve-wracking businesses there is. Then to get up and compete against someone else just adds to terrifying the fact that you're going to get out of the event. You got to practice. First of all, practice your speech. Know it inside out, backwards, frontwards. But I found something back when I was a stand-up comedian. I traveled on the circuit, being that every comics hate each other. They have a tendency. They think you're the only. All the laughs are going to be gone when you get done. And you're not saving it for them. So they sit back in the room and they stare at you and they flip their hair, whatever. And if people are laughing, they would rather shoot you than to clap or pat you on the back and say, great job. It's not that way in public speaking. Not anywhere I've ever been. The people are great people that you compete against. You're already competing. Every time you get up in front of an audience at your home club or anywhere you're at home, you're being judged. A lot of times it's only you that's judging you, and we're our worst critics. But when you get an evaluation, when the rest of the club is writing a little notes, that's all part of being judged. There's no winners or losers, but there's a lot of that you can gain from it. For the fact is, you built camaraderie with your club. You need to go out there, know your audience, know the people when you're going to be speaking in a competition, know the other speakers. Kyle said something last year that hit me because I experienced this. Never be too cocky. Never think you got it won. Because you walk in and say, I had this last year. This is only club level. I got this. Trust me, you better join 2 clubs. Because your earnings will get the best of you. Be humble, but still be brave enough to get up there and chest beat that, hey, I'm the best there is. Confidence comes out when you're on a stage. Learn how to breathe. Let me tell you, I spoke for 10 minutes and never took a breath. I don't remember 9 minutes of the whole speech. And I thought the faster I talk, the sooner I get done. No, the faster I talk, I had 5 minutes that I had to fill up with. Structure your speech, have a great subject and a great opening, middle, and closing. But don't get up there and have to reach into your back pocket and say, no, what the heck am I here for? You be relaxed. Know the people that you're going to compete against. I mean, I always in a comedy club, before I'd go into a new arena and stuff, I'd go around and sit with the audience and I would talk to people and I would become friends with people. And I'd say, I'd really appreciate it if you laughed when I tell these jokes. If you don't, they're not going to ask me back. And then I can't buy you a beer. So if you want that beer, then I just buy you. So you buy them. Okay. Become relaxed. That's right. Yeah, Judge. But they always hide it in the back room. I ain't figured that part out yet. But be relaxed. Make friends. Treat it like you were sitting around the table and drinking coffee and talking about the neighbor walking down the street in his underwear. Just come up and take a deep breath and do the best you can. Nobody knows what you wrote down unless you're stupid enough to hand them a copy. Then they do, but nobody knows if you messed up. Just remember that if you put everything, especially jokes, I find that just what you might think is funny and someone else might not. So don't start out your speech with a joke, because if they don't laugh, you're spending the next 6 minutes on what that joke did. I know you're going to lose. You got to lighten up. You know, bring somebody with you that you know what. That way it goes up. No, relax. Like right now, I was nervous coming in here. I'd sit here and then listen to these two. I was terrified at. I was. And the only way I knew how to control that and handle it was it had to be in my court. I had to choose the platform that I was standing on. Same with you. There's so much that you can do that you control in a contest. And I recommend that you control it. I printed out a worksheet here, talks about 15 ways to calm your nerves. Nerves are the biggest reason for your downfall or for you to forget everything you're gonna do. Like now I'm starting to wing it. And so I'm starting. Oh, there's the timer. That's another. Make sure you watch the timer because you don't want to screw it. But anyway, bring humor. Humor, when everybody laughs, they're not picking on you and they're not writing nasty things. So if you get them to laugh, you gotta make them. And then just relax and breathe. Oh, breathe. That was twice. Thank you.
And thank you to my panelists. Now I'm going to open the floor to questions and answers. We do have some flyers that we're handing out. Yes,
May I make a comment for the people who are online?
yes.
First of all, if you're online, I'm going to be watching to see if you raise your hand or say something in the chat. And I'm going to get copies of the handouts, go home, scan them, and send them to the people who registered on Eventbrite. So everybody online will get it.
Thank you. So I'm going to open to questions now and answers of our panelists. We have Madonna and Lindy and Bud. And feel free to ask questions of any one of them.
I have a question for Lindy. Do you write out your speech? Do you write it out verbatim?
I do. I'm that bad Toastmaster example. They tell you never to do what I do. But that's what works for me. I write it. I am a writer, and that's how I internalize it, the combination of writing it and saying it, of course. So that is the way I do it. I write it and I learn it. I go out and weed at the same time, or any repetitive task, vacuuming, fixing something, anything you can do with your hand and not have to think at the same time, but do repeat your speech, and not always beginning to end, but short sections over and over, not necessarily in order, so that you just get each part down. That's just my method.
Thank you.
I'm driving. I can sit there and do my speech as I drive. I constantly drive. Music in the background is a distraction. And that's where I did my best night, just driving.
When you're driving, are you saying your speech over and over?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And matter of fact, a lot of times when I'm driving at night, I have my speech recorded and it plays over the radio and I critique every word, I can't erase it and delete it, but I try to do better. But yeah, I found driving because I'm not able to multitask as well driving and do that. So by the time I have my speech down pat while I'm driving, I'm ready to go on stage because I know I can do it. If I can get up there and walk, then I can drive and speak, I can walk and speak.
What about you, Madonna?
I write my speeches out. I also, like Lindy, practice sections of it all the time. And like Bud, I do record my speeches also, and I am constantly critiquing and weeding all the time. So thank you for asking.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. Chuck?
Oh, okay. Well, this one is how much effort should be used in comedy. But
what was that?
That was a question about how much effort should be used how much effort should be put into putting comedy in the speech. But I got it. So actually, how much of the stage should be used in a winning speech? And that's a question for you.
I think it's really helpful to look at, I gave Judy one, look at if you've never seen the judging form for the International Speech Contest, take a look at it. It's important to just have an idea of the categories, because one of them is about using the stage.
Yeah. And I think you should be on that stage way before you ever compete
Yes.
too. I made a mistake in Alaska last year of not getting up there and practicing. And when I got to speak, I stumbled my very first step and I froze. And I did not move the rest of the speech as to where if I'd been comfortable with it. So yeah, be comfortable in your surrounding and how much you use of it.
There are rules about where the edges of it, and you need to know not to go over those, because that can disqualify you. So in terms of how much, don't use too much of the stage. But other than that, I think the more that you can use, the better.
And I too think that you need to practice in that space. Just arrive early enough. I didn't mean that.
That's a hidden.
I didn't mean you. But walk through your space.
Right.
And especially if there are certain parts of your speech where you feel you need to be a little bit closer to the audience, or you have a certain gestures, but always walk the space. Walk yourself through it so you become very familiar. So like Bud, you're not like, oh, look at this, yeah, but didn't mean to, pick on you or anything.
That's right.
But I think it's always a good idea to walk through the space to feel familiar with it.
And then for using the stage, it's not random. You will get feedback about it as you go. So something like I used a lot of different things that made sense to me, and people were like, what are you doing moving all over the place? So for one thing, if you're telling a sequential story, people's eyes track left to right. So that means you start stage right and you move stage left. If you're doing a timeline, that's one way to use the stage. Another way is if you have 3 different events, maybe you have 3 different spots on the stage where you tell those events from, and maybe you return to that, if you're making a reference back to it.
Thank you.
Steve?
But I heard your speech last year, and I know it was a really somber subject.
Yeah.
How did you find humor ways to inject humor into that?
Oh, shoot. I had to work on that speech for about 3 months to be able to instill humor because it was so raw. And I didn't want to lose that rawness either, because when I was on the stage giving it, I had to feel that pain that I felt I had when I wanted to die. And you have to relive it. And that was one thing Roxanne had asked me one time before too, is how are you able to bring them emotions back out? You have to relive it every time. And then when you do finally get to the point where you're comfortable with reliving it, then you find humor around it. And usually being around kids, they're going to find humor no matter what the circumstances is. And you can learn from that. I mean, like you were talking about other people inspiring you. But that was the last part of that whole speech that I was able to put in, was the humor, because I had to make it through the emotional part first. But thank you.
So a follow-up to that, do you have any kind of process? Because I talk about the same thing. Do you have any process for kind of healing or recovering after talking about?
One of my favorite is I use quotes. I write a lot. I write a lot of quotes. I have my own Facebook page where I post stuff. I'm co-host of a radio show. I spend a lot of my life helping others because that's what helps me. That's what healed me, is to be able to take the ability to help somebody else and to get up every morning and dread to putting this artificial leg on it and living through life. But yeah, and speaking is probably one of the most powerful ways that you can find healing, and to work through it is to get up and talk about it. Because if you can't talk about it, it's hard to work past it. So, thanks.
Joanna?
So, I'm gonna stand up so you can see me. We've had a lot of phenomenal input as far as developing a meaningful topic, selecting something that's meaningful to yourself as well. My question is there a skill set, a technique, or something specific that you wish you had known before you actually stepped on the stage that would help us get there? Or even want to start on the stage? Is there a technique, a skill set, something that you wish you had known before you stepped on the stage?
I can jump in if you guys.
Oh, yeah.
This may not be exactly what you mean, but this is what comes to me. In my semifinal in Chicago, there were 11 people, and you draw from a deck of cards. I drew the jack. That meant I was number 11. And I thought, yes, I get to be last. As it turned out, when I got on the stage, I could feel how restless the audience was. They were ready to be done.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, I charged through my speech and thought, oh, I gotta finish it. Leave before I finish it. If I could go back, I would give myself permission to be more aware of the audience and to do something different. I would have said, everybody stand up. Let's have a round of applause for everybody who's gone so far. Weren't they great? Now sit back down and listen to me. One more. That would have actually addressed what was going on instead of trying to just work over it. So it's a skill beyond my speech, which was, I think it takes a long time as a performer to be not only aware of the audience, but to be interactive. That's one of the questions that's in our Toastmaster pathways things every time, right? The audience awareness, it's an advanced skill. And it's
And a good way to find that is through humor, because audience, if you throw humor in and if they're laughing, you're engaging them. Kyle's really good with humor and stuff like that too. And people absorb that, but you pick up things because you notice it with the audience. Like you said, being burnt out. I always loved being the last one on stage because I wanted to leave that impression. Never wanted to be first. I'd pay somebody else to go first. I always wanted to be last. But on a comedy stage, I wanted about fifth from the last when I would perform, because the fact is, the last two people are already trying to think of their parking spot, where they're gonna go, where they're gonna be. Okay, I gotta get over there. So they quit thinking about you. And you're right, it's a shame that a good person that's running that stage, if they could see that before they announce you and just make a comment or something like that and not leave it up to you to have to do it, would be great too. That way it plays on an even playground, but yeah.
So go in with a 7 up your sleeve then.
If you do that, get a couple judge forms too and fill them out.
Bring it.
So the timing of a speech is important. How does the size of the audience impact how long it takes you to deliver the talk?
well, I know what you told me and know what the right answer is. The right answer, and Kyle told me before, I think my talk was 6 minutes and 45 seconds or something. And he says, you got to pare this down to 5 minutes because in a bigger room, it takes them longer to laugh. But they were so tired of listening to people, they were not laughing. That room was full of that room was full of world champions who were there coaching their people. It was some serious Toastmasters in that room. So it's, yes, it's supposed to be that way, but it's not always that way.
Is it like, man, if you can get 5 and get the heck out of there, you got a better shot than letting it? No. It just depends on what you have to say in that last 2 minutes.
Well, I'm not on the panel, but my observation, what I was taught, what I saw is, if you're talking to 20 people and you're going 5 minutes, 5:30, and there's humor in your speech, now you increase that to 50 people, you're going 6 minutes, 6:15. You increase it to 200 people, which is what you figure at a conference or district level, and now you're coming in at 7 minutes, maybe 7:15.
But with the same speech, but you're just leaving more spaces
same
because
speech,
of the reaction.
because larger audiences laugh longer.
I performed in front of 1,000 people and it seemed like I was I was way over 10 minutes, 12
You
minutes.
just had to wait, huh?
Well, you don't want to be rude and not let them laugh at you. I mean, you want to let them get that out because you need that energy from that audience too.
Plus, they won't hear you because
Exactly.
they're laughing because
Yeah.
there's the rise,
Yep.
you know, and then you've got to time it so that as the action
Yep.
is falling, you can jump right in, and you want to make sure that you have the volume and the command and the authority, like we've all had our laugh. Now I'm back to,
That's
and
where it's-
then you can.
That's where it's great when you
Yeah.
come in and just whisper.
Uh-huh.
Your next sentence, you whisper it because you got their attention. They just laughed and then you wait and then your next word is just low enough where they have to strain to hear you. Then you pick it up.
Sherry?
A few years back, Ryan Avery out of Portland won the world championship. And he was talking afterwards how he went out and he gave that same speech to every club in his district. There were 64 of them. And he practiced that speech. How do you keep from getting so bored giving the same speech over and over?
Well, I've always wondered, people get bored of me from coming and giving the same speech, just like we're getting ready to go into the contest now. Last year I was in 12 clubs because I was everywhere practicing it because I didn't want to beat my club up giving the same speech. I'm taking 2 shots tonight, nobody else is speaking. Kyle's gonna be there coaching me, so we're gonna work through that, but, you know.
Because I have a background in theater, each audience is different, so it's new to me. So when you're, if I'm giving the same speech or giving the same performance, which you must do when you're on stage, it's a different audience. It's a different feel. It's a new experience for that audience. So I think this gentleman who probably did 64, maybe that's what he had in his mind, that this audience has not heard this speech. It's new to them. So you still have to do your best so that they get whatever they're going to get out of it because it's new to them. Hopefully that will answer.
Yes, and I would just add, I think that's one of the challenges of this district, since it's so spread out. A smaller district, you can visit maybe 64 clubs with ease. If you live in Squim, it's a long way to any club.
Conference last year, you had to fly over the.
Yeah.
And then there's the other thing that, you're practicing at home too. And that just really bores me to tears to practice speech at home. There's no audience, I'm just going through it.
Baby.
On that same note, how does that practicing, how do you keep the spontaneity and the authenticity in your speeches?
I play with the words.
Yeah.
I might take a couple of words and a couple of phrases. How do I want to say it this time? How do I want to say it that time? What kind of a mood do I think I might be in when I get to that phrase? And that also depends on the audience too, because you want to keep them engaged, you want something from them, plus you're looking at them, trying to reach them, find them. And there may be a moment where, okay, are you okay? Okay. Where there may be that moment that when you are practicing your line a particular way, well, here's the audience where you can deliver that line that particular way.
I think you gotta live it, like you say. A lot of it comes in your structure. It's what you're speaking about. I mean, if it's something that's really close to your heart or it's raw to you, you're gonna have a harder time collecting your emotions a lot more than you will with finding them. I mean, I found that a lot of times I go talk about losing my leg, what I went through. It emotionally upsets me. And so I've had to learn how to turn it off.
Another way, just craft wise, of doing that is to go through your speech and see with the different beats or sections, what is it you want to do? What are you trying to do? Like, let's say your story, maybe you're shocking me on it. I'm shocking. and then maybe I'm moving you, maybe I want your sympathy, or there's different things that you want, and then that forces you to put your attention on them and see if what you're trying to do is
Exactly,
working.
to gauge the
Because if
audience.
it's not working, then you need to make it bigger or try something different, and that keeps, that in that moment of you trying to reach them, that's where it's alive and different every time.
Do we have online questions? Kyle, anybody want to?
I haven't seen any. Anybody online have a question?
So I'm thinking, because that's a hard thing
Michael?
for me too, is just, I'm like that. So for me to just and do this boring thing, you know, I mean, even reading, after a while, I'm like, but I do it because if I need to do it. So it's all just your own mindset that I'm working on, that I have to just like, get your lunch pail. Okay, this is my job now. I've had some bad jobs. I'd rather do this than. If I can go and put in 2 hours, of just talking to myself. And knowing that this is really gonna get me more than that weekly paycheck was gonna anyway, so I'm really investing in myself, and I just gotta try to keep that.
One craft tip I heard recently was to look at the I-you ratio in your speech. How many times are you saying I, and how many are you saying you? And if you want to keep the you ratio as high as you can, for instance, like my saying to Judy, that would be more powerful, instead of saying, I recommend you, what about you? What can you do? What's your experience?
Sherry's always very good about bringing me down to earth. Always says, it's got to be about the audience just as much as it's got to be about you when you're talking. They got to take away something from it, and it's easy to get selfish.
The other thing that, and I think Bud hit on this, the other thing that helps keep it authentic and alive, no matter how many times you're doing it, is humor. Because making an audience laugh is just fun. It's just fun.
And it's hard when they cry too.
Yeah.
Does that give you a little edge? Does that give you a little edge in the competition itself, as far as the judging goes?
Being humorous?
Is it being judged on the actual type of speech you do, one over another? If you can pull it
I
off.
think humor always helps.
Yeah.
And
You gotta have a happy medium.
Happy
They
ending?
don't have a.
No, happy medium.
So you addressed the question to me. Is it okay if I?
No, go for it.
My perception, at the area level, the division level, whether your speech is humorous or not may not make that much of a difference, especially if the other speech is a quality speech but isn't humorous. At the district level, again, probably humor speeches have an advantage. If you make it all the way to the World Championship stage, you have to have humor. It's not in the rules, but you got to realize that contest is one of the last things happening after people have been at an educational conference for 3 or 4 days and partying for 3 or 4 days. They are exhausted. And then they have the humor speech contest. If you're not funny, you're not winning.
It's true. I mean, even district level, last year, you could see it in the 6 speeches when we were there. The difference between the seriousness and the humor was leap bound. I mean, mine, and I had humor in mine, and mine did compare to the top 2 that won. They had a lot more to it, and I learned a lot from that. From it was like what Kyle explained that one time. He told me about how don't ever assume you're going to win something. There's always somebody out there can beat you at any moment, any time, and it's true. So you have to think about it. You got to find every edge you can get.
The shorthand structure somebody shared with me was make them laugh, make them cry, make them laugh and leave. So ending on that up note.
So you really want to make sure, and I'm just speaking from the perspective of a judge, I know I'm taking away from the panel time, but I'm just speaking from a long-time judge, a long-suffering judge, a chief judge. You really need to, if you are competing, this form is your friend. And the reason that I say it's your friend, because there's 15 points for excellent in effectiveness, and that's achievement of purpose,
interest and reception. So how did the audience receive? How did you hold their interest, and whether or not you made your points? That is the effectiveness. That is 15 points, and that is significant. So I would strongly suggest that as you're thinking about all of the phenomenal things that are being shared with us, that are being shared with us, that you also take a moment to understand how what our panel is saying is pulled from these points, and how these points get tallied up for first, second, and third place, because it's not an evaluation about whether or not, it's a judgment. It is,
Exactly.
it is, you're gonna win or you're gonna lose. You're gonna first or everybody else.
Where do you find this format?
These forms are available on Toastmasters International. They are also available on our District 32 website. There is a link to the contest forms. What is the tab called? I can't remember exactly what the tab means.
I think it's just, I think it's Club Resources.
Club Resources, and then it's contest, and all of these forms are available.
You can type it up in the search, look for
Oh,
the
yeah.
judge sheet, and it'll pull it up later.
And you can download the whole package from Toastmasters International. There's a folder, a zip folder, and then you just open it up. But these are extremely important for you to understand, because everybody thinks that the judges come up with this criteria. Toastmasters International came up with this criteria. And guess what? Club level, area level, division level, district level, international speech contest level, all use the same
Yeah.
form.
They just have more judges the higher you go up.
Right.
One more question, Fritz?
Thank you. I struggle with working on content and whether or not the content is about my personal experiences versus somebody else's or some story that I read. I just feel like I don't want to be too vain and talk about my
How great you are.
well, you know, how much of a failure, I am, you know,
You could always joke about it.
and I struggle with that balance.
Yeah, well, here's what my input about that is that the most powerful thing is going to be you talking about your experience, because that's how you get to the emotion. If you're talking about somebody else's experience, that's secondhand. That means that you have to talk about something that's got some depth, but then it's all you.
Can I throw in
That's the
one
goal.
more since I don't want
2 years ago, when I was in division, speaking in division, the speech I gave was, how do you say goodbye for the last time? And I knew the next week I was leaving to go say goodbye to my dad who was dying. And it was hard for me to talk about what I was going to go through in the process of going through it. And then, but it helped me to understand what I was going through. But,
before you do that,
huh?
I just ask one more.
But it was hard. I mean, because I was going through this phase where I didn't want to be vain about myself, but I really needed to work through. I felt it was impactful enough for me to give that speech, and it got me to division. So it was just been in a club 6 months.
I don't think it's about vanity. I think it's about authenticity and sincerity.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more then?
How you want to get it.
You're talking about before about humor, tragedy and then humor. Is that a good, should I put some tragedy right in the middle of it? Bring them down?
Well, you don't have to. Don't run over somebody.
I said make them cry.
I mean,
That is
I
tragedy.
I shouldn't
Yeah,
cry,
yeah,
right?
that means that
Well, I'm giving it.
if you're moving somebody,
Something
may not be-
heartfelt, it doesn't, when she said cry, it's not, we're not stabbing somebody in the eye with an ice pick. Yeah, it's just an emotional moment where you can bring people in,
Right.
and then when you're bringing them in, and then you need to bring them back up
You gotta let them go.
too.
But bringing
Yeah,
it
you
in
gotta.
is a good thing to do. Give them something serious in the middle between some good humor on each end. If
If you want to put it that way.
I want to try to be often.
But that tragedy thing.
Well, maybe that was the wrong word.
No.
I don't look at my
She
lips,
said
my lips,
cry.
well, it could be a tragedy.
But
I guess.
the cry would be the first baby, the first boy born or something like that,
The point is, you're creating an emotional roller coaster.
Yes.
And the dip may be tragedy or maybe sadness, or it might be making the audience cringe because you did something really embarrassing. But the point is you're going from laughter to something that makes them uncomfortable, and then laughter again.
Another thing you got to think about too is if the audience knows your story before you ever tell it, you lost them. It's the same with comedy. If they know the joke, if everybody told the same joke every time they got up there, better be making a living. You've got to surprise them. You've got to shock an arm or whatever you do. And if it means tears, not tragedy, tears or emotion, and comedy, and them not knowing which way you're going with what, you've got their attention. And once you have their attention, they're listening to you. They're not looking to watch their cell phone. You've got to spice it up. So.
Thank you very much for all of your questions. We're just about out of time. I do have one final question for our panelists, though. Each of you have made it to district or beyond as a competitor. What has your competition experience given you that made you brave enough to do something fantastic?
I'm going to say appear on stage and use my vocal variety and also the projection of my voice.
Thank you.
Made me brave enough to put on a large event in my club, Laugh Out Loud Humor Speech Showcase, and it made me visible enough that when I asked people to do things, they said yes. So if you're a leader, it can work to your benefit.
There's a couple that, well, after becoming Toastmaster and building the confidence, being around some great people, I was asked to speak in front of 1,300 people at a convention center in Seattle for 45 minutes. And tell me, I was terrified about the first 3 minutes. We raised a lot of money. And now I co-host with a dear friend of mine. We have a radio show every Monday morning that's live that does not face me one day. I mean, I love it. I wouldn't say the attention. I love the ability to change people's lives.
What radio station is it?
It's, well, it's KBI Radio Universe, and we're Facebook Live, and they're working on their FM channels.
Right.
So thank you very much. Can we give a big hand of applause for Thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne, for leading us in the panel and having our panelists sit with us. So they sat with us and shared. And I appreciate several things this brings us in our community, in our family of learning opportunities, is breaking down the trepidation and helping us to embrace the fact that, yes, it's possible, because we have 3 individuals who have made it possible for themselves and have given us an example of how it can be possible, how we then can step up onto that stage. And I will tell you, I don't want to compete. I like being a judge. But I don't want to compete, and the reason that I had chosen not to compete is because I didn't feel that I had a powerful message enough or something significant enough to share. And in a big forum, in a smaller forum, that's kind of my venue, in a bigger forum, I just didn't feel that. And recently, Kyle had asked me to present with him, and that reinforced the fact that I'm really not vested in that crafting of it. But what I am interested in is helping other people craft their message. So it's not always about just competing and wanting to compete. It's also about the opportunity to help others compete, because we have skill sets and we share those. It's your time, talent that sometimes is just the treasure that you offer. So remember those things. We are out of time for our competitor symposium, but thank you to Roxanne Struth. Thank you to Roxanne Struth and Christine Meeker